Good morning, everyone. My name is Taryn, and you are watching my channel, Birdhouse Blooms, where I grow and sell cut flowers in Zone 8A in North Carolina. I have about a 1,500 square foot cutting garden where I grow all of my own flowers. In this video, I just wanted to show you an experiment I was doing. As you'll see at the end, it didn't work, but I think it's important to try things and just see how things go. What I'm doing is I'm taking snapdragon cuttings and trying to propagate them from the cuttings instead of starting new seeds. I really needed to clear space in one of my garden beds for the next succession of plants, which is going to be dahlias. So I needed to get these snapdragons out of the way. And I wanted to try taking what I cleared out of that bed and turning it into new snapdragon plants. I have successfully done this in the past when pinching snapdragons in the seed trays and taking what I've pinched off the top and propagating that part of the plant, but this method did not work for me. I don't know if the plants were just too far along or if I didn't take the cuttings in the right spot. After waiting about 3 weeks, most of them had died off, and when I was pulling out the dead plants, I did notice that like 2 or 3 of them had rooted, but almost none of them rooted. All I'm doing is taking my cuttings and placing the rooting hormone on a previous leaf node where I've stripped the leaves off of the stem. I also don't want too much greenery at the top because this will stress the plant, and I'm thinking maybe this might have been part of my problem. These are pretty leafed out, and when I did it before, when just using cuttings from pinching snapdragons, there was only a couple sets of 2 distinct leaves, and these have way more leaves than that, so they probably were just too far along. Another thing I'm trying new in this video is a different seed starting mix. All it is cocoa coir mixed with a compost that I get from a local service that I use called Compost Now. They take your food scraps and compostable materials, and then they keep track of what you give them, and you earn compost back. So I'm just simply mixing the cocoa coir and the compost together. In the past, I was buying Pro Mix to use for my seed starting materials. I don't really like using peat moss, but I've never found something that works really well for me using the cocoa coir. So I just wanted to give this a try. I have used Coco Loco in the past, but it is a potting mix, so there are large pieces of bark that sometimes you have to screen out of it first, so I was just trying to find a way to be able to skip that step. Now, I don't normally pinch my snapdragons, and I just want to show you real quick why I normally don't do that. I prefer to succession plant them instead. And it's because your first cuts, when you don't pinch your snapdragons, have much thicker and sturdier stems than the branching you get when you do pinch your snapdragons. Tons of people do pinch their snapdragons, and I'm not saying those stems aren't worth growing, but I just prefer these thicker, sturdier stems. It's just a preference I have, so that's why I'm clearing out the snapdragon bed instead of letting it branch out, because I would rather start a new succession. Now, the reason I'm trying this experiment in the first place is because I forgot to start my succession seeds early enough to get these plants going. So I was trying to cut some time off of how long it would take for me to get blooms again. That's a really big challenge that I personally have with succession sowing because I forget to start my seeds in a timely manner, and then I'm always playing catch up. But I think I'm getting better at it. Now, since I've moved to the new growing space, I don't need as many plants as I used to fill my garden beds, so I don't want to plant this entire tray with snapdragons. So I'm going to utilize part of this tray to start some zinnia seedlings. I'm also going to start some sunflowers in this tray. I'm a little late on getting my sunflowers going this season, but that usually happens during the Mother's Day craziness, and tulip season always gets ahead of me, but hopefully I can get better at that as the years go on, now that the garden is smaller and should be easier to manage. I do have another tray of sunflowers already starting that are coming up, but honestly, they didn't look very good, so that's why I wanted to start this new tray. And I also have a new market that I'm going to try in August and September of this year. So I want to have plenty of sunflowers blooming and coming into bloom for those two markets. I'm also hoping that my dahlias will be in full bloom for those markets as well. So I'll be using the Benary's giant zinnias, the ballerina zinnias, a new variety from Johnny's, and the sunflowers, along with the dahlias as my focal flowers. And hopefully I'll have some snapdragons for supporting elements, maybe some cosmos and other things to go in there as well. Soon I will also be seeding some saponaria and annual baby's breath to give the bouquets a little bit of sparkle and bounce also. Since the garden is so much smaller, I'm having to be really intentional about what I pick so that I have a nice, well-rounded bouquet. I have a lot of new perennials planted to hopefully help me do this in the future with less direct seeding and annual seeds starting, but those perennials won't be ready for a few years, so I can't rely on that this time. Now here is a look at that tray that I did about 3 weeks later, and you can see that the snapdragons did absolutely terribly, so I'll be starting seeds for those soon. But the zinnias and sunflowers have come up nicely, so I'm growing those along. I ended up pulling out all of those snapdragons and replanting that with more sunflowers and I believe some sweet peas. The sweet peas are another experiment. I don't know if I can get a fall succession of those. I missed the spring window, so we'll see what I can do. It is definitely too hot in our North Carolina summers to be growing sweet peas. They're not going to like that, but I'm hoping I can find a spot that gets just enough afternoon shade that they can survive into the fall and start blooming when the weather starts cooling off. All right, that's all for today's video. I'll see you next time.